You're listening to The Dating Den with dating and relationship badass and best-selling author Marni Batista. Every week, you'll get the raw truth from top experts and real people on the important dating, sex, and relationship issues you want to know about. So if you're ready for true talk that's authentic and unfiltered, and you're not afraid to be called out on your stuff, then you're ready for what's next.
The Dating Den, episode 53 with Nancy. How to do a badass overhaul of your online dating profile. Hey ladies, are you sick and tired of online dating? If you said yes, then you are in the right place, because today we are going to become badass ninjas at online dating. And the way we're going to do that is I brought into the den one of my most favorite people on the planet, who is a client of mine and a woman who has totally transformed her life and is now looking to put the frosting on the cake, so to speak. Welcome, Nancy, to the Dating Den. Hey, Nancy.
Hi, Marni.
I'm super happy to have you in the den.
Oh, thank you. I'm super happy to be here.
I wish you were like in my den, but for now I'll just take a virtual like coffee, right?
Sure.
All right. So let's just talk about kind of like where you are now with dating, because we talk about it, dating with dignity, that once you become irresistible, you know, you're really just turning the faucet on and you're kind of choosing who you might be with. And in that process, you learn a lot about yourself and what you want and what you don't want. And why don't you bring our listeners up to date, because your faucet has been on and you've changed what we call your non-negotiables, and you've really learned a lot about yourself. So before we talk about what you're going to do next, why don't you bring everyone up to speed with what you've done, where you have been, and we'll talk then about what's not working.
Okay. A couple years ago, I had been in a relationship, and that didn't work out. And so after, thinking about some things and recreating my life and changing it around a little bit, I'm ready to get back out there in online dating. And so I wanted to talk about that, and I wanted to, kind of like the do's and the don'ts, because I'm on a couple sites. I've had a couple dates, but they haven't really, turned into anything. They haven't connected.
Okay.
And yeah.
And you're feeling frustrated. Okay. Well, so up until this time, I know that you were dating like a bad for you guy, like a really bad crumbs guy. You got rid of him. He was like your unrequited. And then you had, I think, 2 other relationships. Did you meet those guys online?
No, they were both met organically.
Okay, great. So, and the first relationship that you had, after we'll call him Crumbs guy, even though I want to use the F word, and it's not the word you think, ladies.
No, it's not.
Anyway, after the F guy, so why would you say that first relationship didn't work out? I mean, it was good, but it wasn't the guy. So what was missing?
What I learned from that is that he was a really nice guy, and he was good to me when he could see me. He couldn't make me a priority was the big thing with him. And also he was having some issues financially, which are one of my non-negotiables. So that kind of, he couldn't make me a priority, and he was really, really struggling financially to the point where he wouldn't be able to contribute to my relationship. So nice guy, up-leveled, but that broke apart because of that.
Okay. So then you turned the faucet back on. You were dating offline successfully, and then you had another relationship, and it was an up level, but this guy still wasn't the right guy. So what did you learn from that relationship?
That relationship, he treated me really nice. We had good communication, but with him, he ran hot and cold. Sometimes I would be a priority. Sometimes I wouldn't be a priority. And every time I would set a boundary with him, he kind of like would balk at that boundary setting. And he'd be like, oh, don't worry about it. I didn't mean it that way, or something like that. So after a bit of time with that relationship had to go because he wouldn't respect my boundaries.
Awesome. Okay, so if you're listening, I just want you to look at this evolution, right? Of like knowing through the process of dating, not like, oh, all men suck, or, that was a big mistake. It was like, great, this is what I learned, and I grew, and it wasn't the right match. And now I really know what I want, and I'm articulating it, and this person can't sort of meet me where I need to be, so I move on. So now you're single, and when you talk about your non-negotiables, for those of you who don't know the language on the old DWD campus, that means like 5 deal breakers, right? And they're based on your values. And so everything that you're doing offline and online is really going to be based around expressing what your non-negotiables are in a feminine, flirty, inviting way. So the first thing is, Nancy, I don't know if you know these offhand, but generally, can you share what you're sort of looking for? What are those deal breakers, those non-negotiables?
Yeah. Right. For me, one of the non-negotiables is family. You have to have a big family value, and be connected to your family. And I have adult children, so it's not like that's necessarily like you have to love my children, but you need to have a family orientation. My second one was loyalty and honesty. The third one's integrity. The fourth one is fun and adventure. And the fifth one is one that I kind of switched around a little bit. It's being able to financially contribute to the relationship. And for me, it used to be financially stable, but he just needs to financially contribute, at least contribute to the relationship in some way that's okay with both of us.
I love it. Okay, so by the way, like spokesmodel. So when Nancy says fine FLN, she's talking about Find Love Now, which is our year-long coaching program. So this is a really important thing. And when I talk to most people, I'm like, what are you looking for? And they're like, well, I don't know. Or they have a list of like 100 things. So you've got these 5 things. So let's talk about your online dating. So you know that this is kind of who you want to attract. This is what you're looking for. Where are you dating online right now?
Okay. I've been on OkCupid and Tinder.
Okay.
That's the free sites right now. And I'm actually going to look into I was on Match for a little bit, going back on Match and tweaking my profile a little bit. Okay. But I thought we'd have a conversation first.
Yeah, no, totally. Okay. So, and when you look at the guys that you're going out with on OkCupid, when you say there's no connection, are you are they 80% a match for you? Are you not really worrying about that, or what? Tell me about using that metric that OkCupid has.
Yeah, I look at I do answer some of I answer actually pretty many of the questions, and I look at men that are 80% or above. If there's a 79%er, or something like that, but really close to 80 and above, because then you're going to be compatible. And I actually do look at certain things and certain questions, and I go, oh, well, he answered that differently, but I could live with that kind of thing. I really look at how much time they put into their profile. I do that.
Okay. That sounds reasonable. And then for your geography, are you like 10 miles away, 20? How?
I put 50 to 60, because that in my area is within a good hour. And I've done that. That's how I met my husband at the time. So that's not so horrible to meet halfway at an hour's doable for me.
Okay. All right, cool. So when you look, and I wish I could see your profile, but that wouldn't really help on a podcast now, would it? But if you look at your profile, do you have it in front of you?
I could probably get it.
Okay. So let's talk about it, because I want you to really share with me, like, when you think about the language in your profile, what does it look like? Why don't you, if you can find out, why don't you read your opening kind of spiel on OkCupid?
Okay, I if I can get it on my profile. I did get assistance from my one coach that helped me write it during a coaching call, so that was really helpful. And it kind of paints like how you're going to spend the day with me. Oh, here it is. I have it.
Okay, great.
Okay. I start out with I'm simultaneously lively and deep, spontaneous and a homebody, outgoing and excited by deep conversation. I love to laugh. I mean, a real laugh. The kind that you can't control as it bubbles up to the surface and enlivens the room. You want to keep going?
I do. Keep going.
Okay. I'm ready for a true partner, one that makes my heart race and also makes me feel at peace, calm, and safe. But more than that, I'm ready to share the in-betweens and the daily moments, being there for each other, spending time at home making dinner and drinking a glass of wine while sharing layered conversations.
Okay, pause there.
Okay.
So one of the most important things, I think, and we'll just use OkCupid as an example, is you want to write it in a way that is evocative of painting that picture, and also I don't want it to sound like a romance novel. Mm-hmm. So there's a little it bubbles up like you blah la 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 la, right? Okay. It's a little, like my kids would say, extra.
Okay.
So here's how and this is good for everyone who's listening. So this is the structure that I want you to follow, and it's great. Yours is like probably on the scale of profiles I hear, it's like a 7, right? But we want to make it like as close to a 10 as possible. So the first thing I think you want to do is like describe who he is.
Okay.
So, what's your opening line again?
I'm simultaneously lively and deep, spontaneous and a homebody, outgoing and excited by deep conversations.
Okay. So it might be something like, here's the dream I have about the two of us, or here's how I see it going down for the two of us, or something that's like in Nancy language. Yeah. And then are you ready? So you're like, hey, you want to hear this? Are you ready? It gets them intrigued. And then you want to talk about who he is. Right, so you are the handsome. You said your non-negotiable was fun and adventure, right?
Right.
Okay, so you are the fun explorer who is ready to find his home or find comfort or be in a relationship, or who has found his way back to knowing what he wants. But you want to really say who you are. Right? You are the blah, blah, blah who is, looking for the his queen, so to speak, right? Because right away you want him to really get into understanding who you're looking for. It's like an ad for a job, right?
Yeah, I do have what he's like at the end, and so maybe I should just
put that up at the beginning. Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. Then the other thing you want to do is you want to say, who are you?
Okay.
Right? So I am that deep conversationalist who will say something so funny you'll burst out laughing at a moment's notice. Whatever it is, right? I am the blah, blah, blah. And you spoke about family being important. So you could say, I am the da-da-da your family will adore. Or your family will, tell you, she's a catch or something like that, right? Because you want to start drawing in your non-negotiables into the essence of your profile. And then we're both blah, 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 and blah, 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 right? So again, what are some of those non-negotiables? We both keep our word. We're both people who know that keeping your word is one of the biggest values. We've worked hard and are ready to play hard, and we're both super active and affectionate. So right at the beginning, you're just sort of saying here's, hey, listen, you want to hear who I'm looking for? Are you ready? Get them excited about it. And then you're the blah, blah, blah. I'm the blah, blah, blah. And we're both blah, blah, blah. Right? So you're kind of really setting it up. Okay, now here's just some other general tips, and then we'll kind of talk about who you're messaging and creating chemistry and connection. But the second piece is, and knowing OkCupid especially, there's sort of a what I'm doing with my life, and, I'm a really good at. And what we notice is that when you are really being specific, Nancy, in that, Like instead of saying, I'm going hiking or going to movies and wine tours, right? It's like, I love to hike the Topanga Canyon Trail, going to the food festival in Torrance is like my favorite thing, and my favorite, and taking a wine tour of Napa, blah blah blah, right? So you want to be really really specific.
Okay.
Like we love snuggling up in bed and watching movies all day. Could be like, we love snuggling up in the bedroom and watching what the league, I don't know, whatever it is, right? Like blah blah and blah.
Okay.
So you want to make sure that you're really being specific. And what a lot of people will say is like, well, shit, if I put that I like red wine and he doesn't like red wine, like the most amazing guy in the world is gonna, peace out. But that's not true, right? This is like targeted marketing, right?
Right.
So we really want to be very specific in knowing who we are and knowing what we're looking for. Other good transition words, just so that you can do it, like you, I am blah, blah, and blah.
Gotcha.
Right? On the weekends, I'll do this, and I'll listen to what you're excited about. I had a client just yesterday who said, she's getting all this amazing feedback from her profile, and one of the guys said to her, what I loved about your profile, and I think this is important, Nancy, so how could you incorporate this approach, is he said, you talk in your profile about how you're going to make me feel. And most profiles I see are all about, I want you to do this, I want you to do that, right? But it's like, I'll put my arm on your hand underneath the table at a dinner party, and we exchange a knowing glance, and you're going to feel like, you're the luckiest guy in the room.
Right.
So, like when I make you my favorite, garbage omelet with all the amazing leftovers from the gourmet meal I cooked you last night, you feel like blah, blah, blah.
Gotcha.
Okay. So really paint that picture of how he feels when he has the amazing Nance in his life.
Okay.
So is that helpful? Do you see how you could make some tweaks?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, a lot. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So you want to do that. So let's talk about, where are you getting stuck online? So are you getting a lot of people reaching out to you? Where are you getting stuck?
I'm getting some people reaching out to me, but a lot of them aren't, like, there's either very little of the profile or there's like no profile. So to me, they haven't put enough profile in. I mean, a lot of energy into their profile. So sometimes they just come on like, hey, baby, how are you? It's kind of like they come on really strong, and then they ask me questions about my profile, but I don't know anything about them because their profile is very little. So that's kind of like where I get like, well, how can I draw them into, a good email that could lead to a phone call without knowing any. I mean, that's where I need that hook.
Well, right. So first of all, if somebody writes you that has zero profile, I would totally not write back to them.
Right.
Okay. So that's number one. So I would put your energy on the on the percent that are like engaging at the same level that you are.
Okay.
Now, one thing that we're finding that is really, really awesome is you sending out messages to to the men that are like, I would say even like 70% and above, and saying like, I hope you're having a great week. I'd love to get together for coffee.
Okay.
Now, you might think, oh, my God, that's so masculine. But here's the thing. You're online. And so what's really important, and for any of you who want to take a deep dive, we did a whole interview with Mike Goldstein on OkCupid, so you guys can listen to that. But what we're finding is that men like women who give them the wink, wink, nudge, nudge so they know they're not going to be rejected. It's like smiling at him like at the from across the room.
Right.
Okay, so you want to send out as many as you can, and then you can start weeding them out. And the next thing that you want to do is you want to say, and he says, yeah, that would be great. And you could say, great, I'd love to hop on the phone and make the plan. And then when you're on the phone, if he doesn't call when he says, if you're not feeling like a good vibe, you can say, I enjoyed talking to you, but just from the time we spent together on the phone, we're not a match, and I wish you the best of luck, which I know you're really good at.
Yeah.
So is that different than from what you're currently doing?
No, because I did listen to the podcast. Yeah, it's a matter of like making time to do this, choosing to make time to do this, and that's what I need to, and that's the other thing I need to really spend more time on there, looking and reaching out to them. Yeah, I'm okay with reaching out, kind of like dropping the softball, so to speak. But I think that I need to commit more time to it and look a little further.
Well, that's a really important piece. And this is really common, is like, online dating is not working for me. I'm not getting good results. And so here's what we know is that what you put in is what you get back. And energetically, not just also with sort of your tools, which is your profile and your photos, there's this energy. And so if you're not feeling like you're really making a commitment to it, energetically, then what happens is you're giving off that same experience that those guys are giving you when you look at a profile that's not complete. Right? Because you want to be engaged, and that you and I talk as part of the work that we do, be the person you want to attract.
Right.
And you want a guy who, and I know you said this, because make you a priority.
Yes.
Right? So when you're not making the interactions a priority, what's going to happen?
Right. Exactly what I get.
Exactly. So I think this is a really important thing, because so many of our listeners are like, online dating, I'm not getting the right kind of stuff. And the bottom line is that you really, and I say this, all day long, every day, is like, you're the common denominator. So what is it that you can tweak or that you can change? So if we were to change your profile and you start spending, I would say, at least 20 minutes a day engaging, getting on the phone with people. And I think it's important, Nancy, to go on at least 1 to 2 dates a week.
Okay.
Because it's a numbers game.
Yeah, it is.
Totally. So now let's talk about your photos, because I actually haven't seen your photos. So when is the last time that did you have professional photos?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. And when did you get those taken?
I think they were taken in summer of 2015.
Okay, so what you might want to do, because energetically you've made a lot of shifts,
right?
And it's the light. I call it the light behind your eyes.
Yeah.
Right? So your confidence is more. You're more present. You've changed so much since 2015.
Yes.
Right? So I would invest in getting some new photos taken, some lifestyle photos. And those are really hip and happening right now. And I think they're really important. I was just coaching somebody who's, a corporate type. And she was like, well, I have these great headshots. And they're not just headshots. They're like lifestyle shots. And I'm like, it's you in like a power suit, like with your arms folded in front of a fancy car, which she looks amazing, and it's super hot and great for her brand, right, for her business, but it's not like fun, flirty, feminine.
Right.
So I would love for you to get some new photos that are really going to reflect your new confidence. And, that's 2 relationships ago.
Yeah, it is. You're right.
Right? So your non-negotiables have changed.
Yeah.
Who you are is very, very different. So you want your new, fresh start online to really be evocative of where you are now in your life, with your high energy and your good attitude and your connection to your mission and your purpose. And because you really have like completely transformed your entire life in the last 2 years.
I really have. Yeah, I have. So that's a great suggestion. I think I will do that. I think that will be worth it.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Totally. So make sure you invest in that. And then, really, once you make these changes, and you can, of course, post your new profile in our group, because Nancy's in the inside circle. And then we'll go over it, and then let's get some new photos, and then we'll put your social calendar and your dating calendar has got to include like 20 minutes a day of really interacting with these guys, and we'll see what happens on OkCupid. And then we can, from there, decide if you want to put it on Match.com if you want, or eHarmony, or any of the other sites.
Right. That's great. Yeah. yeah, I was thinking about getting photos, and you know what I mean. So there's a couple things that were already going through my head with this, also.
Well,
So.
and so here's another really important part, and I appreciate your honesty, is that when in, and I always say, like what you think about is what you bring about, right?
Right.
So you're already feeling like something's not exactly reflecting who I am. Because if you're thinking it's not working, maybe I should, what did your intuition or your gut really tell you?
Well, I've made so many changes in the last years and even just in the last 6 months that, yeah, I mean, they're all very nice photos, but there's so much more going on and so much more to me than there, I mean, not that there wasn't back then, but it's just totally different vibe right now. So, yeah, my intuition, I probably already said, yeah, I should do that. Or I was thinking the same thing. So, yeah, my intuition's telling me, get new photos. Absolutely.
Awesome. So if you're out there listening and you're like, I'm not getting results, this is kind of like the checklist, right? You go through is my profile written the best way that it can be? Generally speaking, and Nancy didn't do this, but when we do profile reviews from people who, aren't dating with dignity, so to speak, there's a lot of so-and-sos and so-and-sos need not apply. If you're only into la la la, don't do this. We did a coaching call once and we went through these profiles of men and we played a little game, and you could basically dissect their relationship history based on what they said they wanted and they didn't want it because of the words they used and the energy behind it. Mm-hmm. So the way that we just kind of went over is going to really put out into the universe excitement, positivity, joy, possibility, and painting that very specific picture. A guy who's very visual anyway is just going to plop himself with your new fancy photos, right into the picture that you're painting, and I think you're going to get a huge result.
I agree. I do. Yeah, I'm going to do this. Absolutely.
So any other questions before we wrap up our online dating profile overhaul?
I don't think so. I think I'm good. I think I have a plan all set out. So rewriting the profile, getting new pictures, tweaking, looking at men at 80% or above. 70% or above, and just really go from there.
Right, and this is an important piece, so I don't want to get lost, is create that time in your calendar for at least 20 minutes a day and set the goal to be, 1 to 2 dates a week, and you get to reach out. So you're going to start initiating and turn the faucet on, Nancy.
I will.
I love it. You've been amazing. So I can't wait to see what happens from this profile overhaul. Because, and last thing I'll sort of say is, for those of you who are listening, is that online dating can really be awesome. I think the latest data says that 50% of marriages the people met online. If you're scared of online, if you hate online, if you think nobody's going to be online, that you would date. I had a client who was actually a widow. And when we first started working together, she was like, I just know this. My husband, I loved him. He was amazing. He would never date online. And the social circles we hang out, those men would never date online. That's just not who I am. So I put her through the Marni car wash. We got to the end and she totally changed her beliefs and she went online, and it was actually hilarious because one of the guys that she ended up meeting was an old fraternity brother of her husband who passed away. And then she started asking her friends who had friends who were dating, and they were like, oh yeah, she totally met her husband online. Wow. And right, so here's the thing: it's a universal possibility, and when you do it and you put the right energy into it, your cab light goes on. It's sort of like sending a message to the offline world that you're available, and it allows you to practice and to feel empowered, like you're doing the choosing. So, I highly recommend that you look at your beliefs around online dating and go through the process that we went through, whether you're doing it already or not, and give yourself an online dating profile makeover. So, Nance, I love you. Thank you for being here. I appreciate it so much.
Absolutely.
All right, ladies, and hey, don't forget, this is so freaking important. Date with dignity. We'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye.